Joey Nichols Janetti of the Nichols Brothers. Thank you for being part of this Bases Loaded rock band. We love guitar nerds, tracing histories of the musical past. You have quite a past as being the low end of the Nichols Brothers. What is your earliest musical memories? Where did all this start? Where did all this start with you?
Right at the very beginning. Our father was a musician all his life, and his dream was to have a family band. So as soon as we were able to talk, he had us singing.
Mm-hmm.
And as babies, mom and dad both sang to us. So as the three oldest brothers started talking, we started harmonizing.
Wow.
We kind of like almost in the same footsteps as the Osmond brothers.
Okay.
Age and did a lot of the same types of things, and actually worked together with them on several occasions. And so we had a lot of similarities, but from the time we were babies, we were singing together.
Yeah. So your first instrument is your voice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is probably the case with all the Nichols brothers.
That's right.
Okay. So your father, what kind of musician was he?
He was an amazing musician. He was a gifted piano player. When he was 5 years old and too young to go to school, they had a piano at the school where all his brothers and sisters went. And they used to let him sit at the piano in the hallway and play the piano as the kids would come in and out of school and entertain them. He graduated from New England Conservatory of Music when he was 15 years old. And from what we were told, he was teaching the professors.
Okay.
An amazing musician.
Yeah.
He enlisted in the Army when we got bombed at Pearl Harbor and asked if he could be part of the Army band. They told him the only opening they had was for a trombone player. And the auditions were one day later. He bought himself a trombone, taught himself to play it overnight, and passed the audition the next day.
Wow.
I've played trombone all my life since 5th grade. And I could not sit down today. I haven't played this thing in probably 5 years.
Okay.
I've got 40 years experience. I couldn't sit down today without practicing it and pass an audition.
Yeah.
But Dad was able to teach himself in one day and pass the audition for the Army band. Before the end of World War II, he was actually doing arrangements for the Army bands.
So what kind of, were you talking about swing music?
We're talking about the band, the marching band's music.
Okay.
My brother has the big scrolls. They didn't have computers back then, just big sheets of music that he hand wrote. And so he was a gifted musician, could play anything. And as we grew up, he was teaching us as we went along vocal harmonies and things like that. So that's how we grew up in music.
What was the repertoire that he was showing you?
Well, he was from Boston, Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Okay.
His roots were in jazz. So he taught us a lot of things about chords, chromatic scales. Like, most people were learning do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. He was teaching us do, di, re, mi, fa, fi, so, si, la, li, ti, do, all the,
in between notes.
Yeah, he was trying to teach us the all the variables and the things we didn't learn in school.
Yeah.
High school band teachers, or I would say elementary, they were, everybody knew my father's reputation, so they didn't mind. And he actually went to the school and helped. He sat in on the band instructions and kind of helped with the teaching of the students.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was very involved in our lives and in our musical lives.
Yeah. Was he a road musician?
Occasionally, he pretty much gave up the road when he started having children.
Okay.
But whenever money was tight, he would disappear for like 2 or 3 months and do a gig and come back with a bunch of money. We were too young to know where he went or how the gigs worked back then.
Mhm.
So all we know is he came back like Santa Claus with a bag of toys,
All right.
and then all of a sudden the bills were paid.
Yeah.
But he wanted to be there with the kids full time, so he made his living doing piano work in different piano lounges in Columbus, Ohio,
Okay.
so that he could be with the family.
So he settled down in Columbus because of your mom?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
his
he,
road.
he was a singer as well.
Yeah, his band back in the 40s and 50s was called the Park Avenue Jesters.
Okay.
And they had a couple records out. One was called Pasta Vazula, and they used to play with a group called the Vagabonds. He used to play with Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey,
All right.
and a lot of the old swing bands back then. When the kids started coming in 1955, when Tony was born, he kind of gave up the road life.
Mm-hmm. Park Avenue Jesters.
Yes.
So what did he do once
This is Dad's band. This is the Park Avenue Jesters. This is some of the stuff that he did.
uh-huh.
You can see him with the trombone here
Yeah.
and back in the Army days.
That's wonderful. Now, how good of a trombone player was he?
I never got to appreciate it, never heard him play.
Okay. Did he play piano a lot at home?
No, we had 8 kids in a 3-bedroom house, so there was no room for a piano.
Okay.
Less than a year before he died, one of his best friends who owned a business came over to our house, built a room on our house, and gave him a piano. And he started performing with the brothers, playing piano, started the family band.
Okay.
And later he got cancer and died.
Okay.
That started the Nichols Brothers.
Okay. So the Nichols Brothers started before he died.
Yes.
Okay, that I did not know. And Jimmy wasn't a part of it at this point.
No, Jimmy was, we called him Jim Pockets. He used to walk around with his hands in his pockets, had no musical interest, never sat down and listened to us. He was only 8 years old at the time. He was still playing with his toys, and
Yeah.
he just never seemed to have any interest. And even though Dad had just got the piano, Jim never really got any lessons from him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dad was so excited to work with, since Tony was playing trumpet in high school band, I was playing trombone in high school band, Fred was playing drums in the band.
Mm-hmm.
Very passionate about the 4 of us playing together.
Yeah.
In his spare time, the 4 of us were having jam sessions.
What would you guys jam on? What was your music back in the 60s?
Well, anything that we would listen to. We did a lot of stuff from Herb Alpert, Tijuana Brass. We did stuff from the Beatles, like Yesterday or something, or anything that we could play, and we would just follow through.
Yeah. And then you said your dad got cancer.
Yeah, he had a stroke. He had cancer for a period of time, which he didn't tell anybody. But on Mother's Day, he had a stroke, and 3 months later, he was gone.
Okay.
So it was real fast, and we weren't very prepared for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how you would prepare for it. That's yeah. So what then happens is in ways we can't explain. Tell them the Jimmy story. I'm going to let you tell it.
After he was gone, we didn't really pay much attention, but Jim had sat down at the piano and he was playing. And we really still hadn't really understood what was going on. But a friend of the family happened to come over to the house. He knew that our father was gone, and he wanted the three brothers, the oldest of us, to go to the Veterans Hospital in Chillicothe, Ohio, and walk around the wards and play music for the veterans, since we weren't doing anything for Father's Day.
Yeah.
And, so we were like, well, we can't. Our piano player's gone. And he looked over and he heard Jimmy playing piano in the other room. He says, your piano player's not gone. I can hear him playing. And that was the first time we ever really focused that Jimmy was really playing piano.
Yeah.
Because of this a friend of mine was at the house that day.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the focus was, oh my God, he really is playing piano.
Yeah. And it was weird.
So the weird thing was he was actually playing the songs that my dad was playing, although Jim never really heard my dad playing them.
Okay.
And so we just sat down and we started playing the same songs that my dad played, and Jimmy was beating them out. And we were like, oh, we were still in shock because Dad had just died.
Yeah.
We didn't really get it. But Jim was right there playing it.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to touch the pedals on the piano. We had to put 2 telephone books on the piano bench so he could read the keys, because he was only just 9 years old.
Yeah.
But he was playing the songs, and we were like, we didn't know what to make of it. But we went to the Veterans Hospital in Chillicothe, Ohio. We went from ward to ward, and we entertained the veterans, and that became a yearly thing with us. Every year we would do Father's Day at the Veterans Hospital. So that became something for us to give back.
Yeah.
Because our father was a veteran of World War II.
Yeah. In memory of your father and all the people that died.
Yes, that was kind of giving back. And that was a big part of our shows. Whenever we performed as the Nichols Brothers, we always ended the shows with a tribute to the veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And when Lee Greenwood came out with God Bless the USA, that became our big ending song that we did as a tribute to the veterans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So was the Silver Nickels something your dad came up with?
No, it was actually something a guy from the church came up with. So one of the church guys had there was 2 other brothers that played banjo and guitar. And he wanted us to do some church things. And so they came up with, they were trying to find different names for us to play together with them.
Mm-hmm.
We were all Beatles fans, and they were called the Silver Beatles.
Yeah.
Where they became the Beatles.
Right. Yep.
Tony came up with the Silver Nickels idea.
Okay.
And so that's where the Silver Nickels came from.
Okay.
And became the Nichols Brothers eventually.
Yeah. So the Nichols Brothers, the Silver Nickels, that was the thing that helped keep the family afloat right after your dad died.
Yes.
Okay. So this was tell us that story.
Well, for a while it was we wanted to go to band camp, which was part of the marching band at school. We didn't have the money. So one of our teachers at school told us that he'd pay us, the fee for band camp was, I think it was $50. He said, well, if you guys come out to the local swimming pool and play a few songs, we'll give you $50. And they paid for our band camp. So that was our first paying job.
All right.
came out to the swimming pool. We had a tape recorder, speakers about 8 inches high, and a little microphone from the tape recorder.
Mhm.
And that was our PA. And we sang Twist and Shout, and we did a couple Tijuana brass songs, and we made our $50. And then the local band, who had speakers that were higher than our ceiling, and big rock band with all kinds of equipment, they played the rest of the pool party.
Okay.
And walked away going, wow, why were we even here?
Yeah.
But we still did our first paying job.
Uh-huh.
And we say, you know, we could get used to this. And then certain relatives and people, there was a guy named Walter Folden that was his daughter went to school with us, and he went out and bought us a piano. The uncle that built the room on our house, he bought us microphones. There were people that were donating equipment so we could actually do parties.
Yeah.
And we started performing, and the more we played together, the better we got.
Yeah. It
Just
was
kind of-
singing and it was playing. How quickly was it? How many years would go by before you would go over to bass?
Oh, geez, let's see. So that was 1972. And I graduated in 1975. So in 1974, the high school decided they were going to have orchestra class. So I signed up for orchestra, and I signed up for the big string bass.
Yep.
And so that would have been 2 years that I picked up the string bass and really liked it. And then I ordered a fretless electric bass.
Mm-hmm.
Played bass ever since then.
So what you play now is fretless.
I have lots of them now.
Yeah.
Probably that's always been my favorite, is the Fender fretless precision bass that I bought. I have.
Okay. So you're okay. And you learned to play that by ear?
Yes.
You think that's a family trait that you guys all have great ears?
I would say it's a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Jimmy never had, I don't say he never had, I don't know that for certain, but
He
had
never
skills. He had skills no piano teacher taught him.
he had skills that the teachers didn't know how to
Pull off.
we took him to a place for piano lessons. Since my dad had the reputation he did, pretty much all the places back then knew him. So there was a place called the Conservatory of Piano on East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, which was owned by a friend of his. When we called the lady and told her that Jimmy was playing piano, she said, bring him down, we'll test him. She gave him the 4th year of college final exam, and Jimmy scored a 96 on it.
At 9 years old.
At 9 years old, without ever having a lesson. She tested him again, and he scored a 97. So they gave him a scholarship, and they started him out on lessons. He would put the music on the piano. He would take one look at it, and then he would turn the music over and just play it. And the teacher would say, no, I don't want you to memorize it. He says, I want you to sight read it and play it along. And Jimmy's cocky little 9-year-old mind would say, look, when your music falls off the stand, you got to stop playing. Mine, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I can
He
just
was
keep.
right.
And Jimmy's mind didn't comprehend what they were trying to teach him, because he was so far ahead of himself at the time
Mm-hmm.
that he wasn't teachable. Their knowledge wasn't able to actually add to what he already knew.
Yeah.
And even to this day, you can't stick a sheet of music in front of Jimmy and have him just sight read it, but he can study it, turn it over, and then he can play.
Mm-hmm.
So he does recordings and stuff where they have a 150-piece orchestra, but they'll give him the whole book of music. He'll turn it over and he'll do the recording.
Yeah. Well, he was
And,
probably right. That's the funny thing about this.
sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Some of the questions that I've been asking friends, like what is musical genius? And you can't really explain any of that. He can't explain it.
No, all I can tell you is that when he was playing and we were performing, if he just focused on the crowd and focused on around him, it would just come. But if he actually sat and tried to think about what he was doing, his mind could go blank.
Yeah.
So he just kind of let it go and then just let God do his thing. And but he developed so quickly, and all the different things came together so fast that it was just amazing. And, even being the older brother, when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, and he was only 13 and 14, if he said, sing this part, I didn't argue with him because I knew he knew what to do.
Yeah. You said that at a certain point, that little snot-nosed brother became the arranger, the main arranger.
Yep, he did.
Wasn't really he wasn't,
So he made my job easier because I didn't do.
And it's like I gotta say, it's amazing. I won't say it's amazing because obviously it's very gifted.
Yeah.
But the fact that you all, at the age that you were, you didn't get bent out of shape, that your little brother's telling you what to do.
No, because we all
Right.
had the ability he had.
Mhm.
At the time, I did all the repairs on everything. I fixed all the microphone cords. I repaired all the instruments. I had the upkeep on the vehicles and everything. Well, as Jimmy got older, all of a sudden his mind, he loved computers, he loved technology, and he completely took over the equipment, where I didn't have to focus at all on whether a microphone was working or we had a problem with a speaker, or he took over everything. So worry about was keeping the band booking. I did all the management and I took care of all the funding. So Tony,
go ahead.
Tony, all the fan clubs. Tony wrote all the letters to everybody and answered all the letters and did all the fan stuff. And Freddie just helped Jimmy whenever he needed a help with anything. So we all have parts.
Yeah, you ought to roll
together as a team.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is like, I call that banding. Never, like, part of the things we learn when we play with people is the human thing, the human contact. As I think sometimes, like, kids nowadays are in their bedrooms and they have their computers, but you're not learning the same stuff, which doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but it's not the same. It is not the same because you have to navigate through people's agendas and get along and all that kind of stuff.
We had our hats off a stage, but there was never, not even once in 25 years of traveling, ever a bit of jealousy on stage. There was the animosity between the brothers as to, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, or I want to sing this song, or you shouldn't sing that song. And we were always happy if somebody did a good job. It was never.
That's the way to be.
It was like that. Now we weren't like that off stage. We had our spats, but loved each other. And on stage, everybody was professional, always, all the time.
That's wonderful. I wish I could say the same. But that's the way it should be.
That we had for each other on stage was really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Who is Andy DiMartino?
So Andy DiMartino was the first real producer that we ever worked with.
Okay.
He produced the Cascades. You remember the song "Listen to the Rhythm of the Fall"? He produced a lot of songs way back with Liberty Records.
Okay.
Andy DiMartino, I can't remember how he found us, but he took us under his wing, took us to Nashville, up in his house, gave us lessons every day. He says, you guys don't need to learn how to sing, but you need breathing lessons. You need to know when to take your breath, when you're singing a phrase, you need to always take your breath at the same place, all four of you. You need to learn how to phrase. So every single day, he was teaching us, giving us lessons at his home in Nashville. And then he would bring us into the recording studio and we were recording. So we did our first real recordings as far as professional in Nashville through Andy DiMartino. And he had a record company called Moonshine Records. Problem that we had was Andy DiMartino had a daughter who was dying of kidney disease. And Andy was trying to keep her alive, was robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
And he ended up bankrupt. And Andy ended up dying of the same disease, lost his kidneys too. And so all the work that he had done with us pretty much went down the drain. The lessons that he taught us in that several month period that we lived there with him, you couldn't buy if you wanted to pay millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They were invaluable. He knew how to teach. He knew what he wanted to hear. And he taught us that when you walked in the door of the studio, you check your egos outside, you listen to what they're telling you to sing, what to do, and gave us a real professional experience in the studio.
And
So that was,
how old were you all when this happened?
probably, Jimmy probably was 18 and we were probably 21, 2, and 3.
Okay.
We had done a record in Columbus, Ohio through Rome Records, a local place. But we weren't really that involved. Jimmy was the only one that was really studio ready. And he worked with a guy named Amos Sirin. And they did our first record called A Gift from Joey and put our first record together. But it didn't have the type of Nashville studio musicians and stuff that Andy had access to. Learning experience that they needed. But like myself, I didn't even hear any of the songs being recorded. I went in and sang my vocal part, and that was it. I wasn't even involved in it. And most of the music was just done through Jimmy and the other guy. They just did their stuff. So it wasn't like the experience that we got when we went to Nashville.
Yeah.
All the four brothers had private lessons for that whole period of time. It was an amazing experience.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But
so you guys were a road band for many years.
Many years. That's what we had to do to pay the bills.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got management, you went all, or did you're the one that booked it all?
I was the one that did all the bookings.
Okay. So is that how you found York, PA?
George Moffitt with Variety Attractions was one of the biggest booking agencies in the country. He ran into us at a show club in Zanesville, Ohio, which is the home of Variety Attractions.
Okay.
Saw us, just like you hear in the songs about the guy with the big cigar, and said, man, you guys are gonna hit it.
Yeah.
He did him, and I was like, yeah, right, we've heard this story before.
Yeah.
And he put his money where his mouth is. 2 weeks later, we were on tour with Barbara Mandrell.
Okay.
York Interstate Fair was one of the biggest fairs in the country.
Yep.
So he got us booked at the fair, 3 shows a day for 11 days in a row. And then the fair asked us back. We were there 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of our biggest attractions, and that's where I met my wife. So I ended up down in York.
Okay. So we're neighbors now.
Yes. We are.
So so you guys went to Nashville at a certain point, like throughout the 70s. You're kind of what Jimmy says is he would take a Bee Gees song, but it would not be the Bee Gees song you necessarily heard on the radio.
Jimmy had a big way of putting things into music that you just didn't imagine could be done.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So throughout the 70s, that was like kind of more like pop-ish.
Well, the 70s, we did a lot of stuff like Bob Seger. We did REO Speedwagon. We did old rock and roll stuff from the Beatles, the Bee Gees, a lot of stuff from the Beach Boys with the intricate harmonies, stuff that nobody else would touch. We did Crosby, Stills, Nash, Young, and we did it all without a guitar.
Yeah.
Jim act for filling things in with the his left hand on one keyboard and his right hand on another, and filled in the sounds that you didn't really know that you were missing a guitar. And so we did the type of music that nobody else would even touch. And that's what really gained us the popularity we had.
Yeah, because nobody sounded like that.
Nobody sounded like that.
Yeah. So at a certain point, was it Barbara Mandrell, or you started heading towards kind of country?
Well, we really didn't do very much country until that particular day that George Moffett said, "You guys do country, don't you?"
Yeah.
And went home and we put a medley together of Statler Brothers hits, Alabama's hits, Oak Ridge Boys, and we put all we needed was a 20-minute spot in front of Barbara Mandrell. So we put a show together real quick of country, and it blossomed from there. Next thing you know, he's got us doing all the guys on Hee Haw. They didn't have their own bands because on Hee Haw they had the studio bands. So these guys like Little Jimmy Dickens and all the Hee Haw guys, whenever they were doing the fairs, they didn't have their own bands, but George knew we played by ear.
You're the rhythm section.
He would hire us to not only be the opening act, but we would back the musicians too.
Yeah.
They would get up on stage, they'd sing, and we'd just play behind them because he knew play along. So we learned all kinds of country songs.
Yeah. Yep. So did you write? Did you guys?
Jimmy and Tony did most of the writing.
Okay. What is Tony like? What Tony was the trumpet player?
Tony is the trumpet player. He does play keyboards. As we progressed, we ended up getting an extra keyboard stack that Tony would fill in when he wasn't playing trumpet.
Yeah.
But Tony was the organizer of the group. Tony kept everything in place and kept everything organized.
Okay. So he and Jimmy were the main writers.
Him and Jimmy were the main writers, and they were responsible for making sure all the music worked.
Yeah. Okay.
All I did was take orders. Whatever they said, play this, that's what I played.
Okay. But but it was right. It was probably the right thing to do.
We probably
There's wisdom in that.
We do over 2,000 songs, and out of 2,000 songs, we probably rehearsed less than 300 of them.
Yeah.
We would just up on stage. We were like Stump the Band. People would play this song, and we would just play it.
It was like it was like the world's greatest open mic band.
It was.
Yeah.
But I didn't learn the words because I could play the music. Jimmy and Tony somehow they could memorize words to anything, and if they heard it, they knew it. All I had to do up and play the bass, and if I didn't know it, Jimmy was looking at me and saying D, F, C. He'd throw me the chords and I'd play them. So we could play just about anything.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. So
Yeah.
did you learn the Nashville system too?
I know the Nashville system, and I've only learned it because Jim has been instructing me.
Uh-huh.
But I'll never know it the way he knows it.
Yeah. He's kind of mastered it.
He has mastered it.
Yeah. He is yeah. So what are you doing now? What are you so you had the Nichols Brothers that ran its course. How did that run its course? We'll just start with that.
Well, I'll tell you what, there was a point when our manager, who was also the manager of David Copperfield and Boxcar Willie, and he had some other names under his belt. Him and I used to golf together a lot. And on a personal level, we were friends. And he took me aside and he said, you know, you guys, we're not getting hit records because there's already an Alabama out there. It's already a Statler Brothers out there. He says, I don't really know what to do with you guys as far as how to present you, because you guys are in a field all of your own. He says, but you guys are holding Jimmy back. He says, if you guys let him loose in 6 months, he's going to be a star. And we were at a point where Jimmy's heart was in studio work. That's where he wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was getting ready to start school. I wanted to be with him. Tony was married. And we were just at that point. We've been on the road for 24 years. So we built our own recording studio, and Jimmy started working that, just absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of the start of the transition from being a road band to Jimmy just doing studio work.
Yeah.
We had a financial backer, put a bunch of money into the band, and just at the time that the band was ready to go, the songs are out, they were playing on the radio, everything was working, the Oklahoma City bombing happened. All you heard on the news was Timothy McVeigh and the Nichols brothers, Terry and James Nichols. All the record companies pulled our stuff off the shelves as fast as they could. They didn't want to be associated with Nichols Brothers because of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah.
To me, that was kind of like God saying, you know, this isn't where you guys are meant to be. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Headed into the studio full time. Actually, Larry and Steve Gatlin really helped him out in the studio in Nashville.
Okay.
That's where his career took off, and we were happy for him.
That's wonderful.
Home with my kid, and Tony was back with his wife. His kids were starting to grow up, and so we went our ways and doing our thing, and Jimmy blossomed in the recording industry.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful that y'all such a tight-knit family.
Well, none of us were jealous of Jimmy's.
Yeah.
We all saw his artistry in the studio because we owned our own studio at the time. It was called Odeon. And we did a lot of commercials, and we did a lot of studio work with Jimmy. We could see that that's where his heart was.
Yeah.
So all the brothers were very proud that he was able to get in there and do his work, and he was happy in the studio.
Yeah. So what are you doing now?
Well, musically, I'm performing with a bunch of old guys that are like me, and we're doing gigs locally that raise money for different charities, and just having fun at it.
Okay. Just kind of like where it all began. doing it
Yeah.
for fun. Yeah.
Got a musical room down in my lower level here at the house where they all come here and we jam.
Mm-hmm.
We do old country stuff. And so we did a show last year, raise money for the Ronald McDonald House. And we do stuff for charities. There's a young man that's got brain cancer. They're trying to raise money for him. So we're going to get together next month in July and raise it for him. We just do things like that once in a while. But mostly we just get together and have a good time, and we keep our music going.
That's wonderful. And I want to, I would like to be a guest at some point.
I would come out.
Jam with y'all. We're gonna make that happen. As I said, Joey and myself live in the same town, so which would just make a small world kind of thing. So in the next couple of weeks, you'll hopefully be seeing more of some interaction, which I think would be very cool. So, well, Joey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for telling your story and supplying other details that of your whole family's history that you know. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I realize that I'm very blessed to have been able to enjoy the life the way I have, and your time.
All righty. Thank you so much, and I will see you, and we will be in touch very soon.
Looking forward.
All righty. See you then.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.